Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Healthy Living event sponsored by the Juice Plus community. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Carol Turnbow. I'm a senior sales coordinator with the Juice Plus company. I'm also a wife. I'm a mom. I'm a Mima. I'm a CrossFit coach. I'm a CrossFit Masters athlete, but my passion is nutrition. I love teaching people that food really does heal the body. Tonight, you're going to be hearing from myself and some of my teammates. We've all joined on a mission to inspire healthy living around the world. And I'm going to start tonight by introducing our product line. Our product line is simple, and it will remain simple because it's food. It's food that our bodies need on a daily basis. Juice Plus has figured out how to put fruits and vegetables in capsule form. It's the best way to get your fruits and veggies in every single day. So for starters, we have the fruit, the vegetable, and the berry blend. These three blends are 100% plant-based all the way down to the capsule. They're better than organic, non-GMO, picked at the peak of ripeness with an NSF seal of approval. And what that means is that what is in the product is on the label. So for instance, this is our berry label. And I'll read it to you. It's got raspberry, bilberry, blueberry, cranberry, pomegranate, grape, blackcurrant, blackberry, elderberry, artichoke, and cocoa. Out of these three blends, you're getting over 33 different fruits, vegetables, and berries every single day. We also have our, I missed my favorite part of our label, our nutrition label. I don't want to forget about that. This is why I bought the product. It is, like I said, fruits and vegetables in a capsule, and it carries a nutrition label because it's whole food. We also have our full spectrum of plant-based omegas, 3, 5, 6, 7, and 9. So we all have heard that we should be taking our omega-3s. Get your fish oil. And, everyone says, get your fish oil, get your omega-3s. Well, what Juice Plus has done is we've cut out the middleman. So we took out the fish. The fish actually eat algae to get their omega. So our omega blend is also completely vegan, like our other products, and it's made up of algae oil, pomegranate seed oil, tomato seed oil, and more. So these 4 capsules together, along with a complete shake, is how I start every single morning. Our complete shakes are another vegan product. They come in chocolate and vanilla. I'm a little lazy in the morning and I really don't like to eat. So I just mix mine with water, swallow my capsules, and honestly, it's just the best way to start my day. We also have a new protein that came out in December of this past year called Perform. Our Perform protein has more protein grams per serving than the complete. So I use that typically during my workouts. Like in the beginning, during and after my workouts, I always sip on a Perform shake. And last but not least, we have an aeroponic growing system called a tower garden. Mine is sitting here in my office right now. I live in Indiana, and it's starting to get cold. I think our high tomorrow was 50. So I brought my tower in from outside. I've just replanted all of my little plants, and in another 3 or 4 weeks, by the time I get home from conference next week, I'll be able to have some fresh veggies, lettuce, and herbs that I can use every single day. So I love my tower garden. If you have not heard about the tower garden, make sure you talk to whoever invited you to this call, because you've got to hear about our tower garden. So like I said, we have some speakers that have come to join us tonight. I'm going to start by introducing Beth Meyer. She is here. She's going to share her Juice Plus journey and chat with us all tonight. Thanks, Beth, for being on the call.
Thank you, Carol. We're going to do this a little differently than maybe you're all used to. For those that have been on this before, and for those that are brand new, won't seem different at all. And I know you see this beautiful glow around me. It's not because it's not a halo. It's actually the lights of my tower garden that Carol was just talking about. But I am actually going to turn it over to the person who invited me into this business, my now dear friend. And I'm not going to say any more. I'm just going to hand it over to Tamara. Tamara, take it away. You're muted. Tamara, you're muted.
She's not muted. We just can't hear her.
Oh, we can't hear her.
That's why my microphone was off. How's that?
There we go.
Now
okay, much better.
There you go. So I was just saying that I was trying to subtly finish my dessert. So just, in case you were wondering why it was like this, we all have our little foibles, and a sweet thing after dinner is one of mine. So Anyway, it's really nice to be here and glad to see some faces I know and some new faces as well. Beth and I have known each other for a very long time, and we talked earlier this evening and decided to do a kind of a shared story time for you guys. So my name is Dr. Tamara Sachs. For those of you that I don't know, I've been involved in Juice Plus for over 21 years now. And it started because a dear friend of mine who had no, how can I say this diplomatically, had no medical clout with me at all. She was the roommate of my, at one point, boyfriend. She's an Australian who was a bartender when I've known her. I was still in school, and she knows everything about Australian beer, but like nutrition, like science, like no credibility with me at all. So the story goes that for 2 years, she tried to get me to look at Juice Plus, and I don't even remember. I'm just going by what they tell me. I don't even have a clue that for 2 years she was trying to talk to me. I don't even know what that means. Anyway, she finally got smart and talked to my dear late husband, Joe, who was way more, kind and receptive and just in general nicer than me. Right? I just blew Frances off, and Joe said, "Sure, Frances, we'll look into that for you, of course." Anyway, he looked into what she was talking about and said, "Tamara, I think you'd like this. You should maybe look at this." And it was a tape by my now dear friend, Dr. Mitra Ray. Most of you who have been around for a while know Dr. Ray. And if you're new, you will know Dr. Ray, and I hope you know her sooner rather than later. Anyway, I listened to the tape and I was still skeptical, but I was very interested. And so there's going to be little morals in the story along the way, right? So the moral of the story is, when there's a couple, especially a power couple like we were, always talk to both, because it's very difficult for one person in an important relationship to try to explain what you have been saying to the other person without you helping them. It becomes a telephone game and it doesn't work. So if you have a couple that want to work this together, or that might want to work this together, or even just a couple, try to get both of them to listen to and be part of whatever information sharing, event giving that you're doing. So Frances was smart about that. And then she got even smarter when we became a little interested, Joe and I, in this whole thing, because I listened to Mitra Ray. She was smart, and she put us in touch with her upline immediately. She recognized that she did not have the experience in the company or with the business to be able to answer our questions. So she got us together with Cynthia Gompers. Many of you know Cynthia, she's my upline. And so Cynthia Gompers drove all the way down from God only knows where, New Hampshire, wherever she was living, not where she's living now, further away, and had lunch with us and literally drew the circles out on a napkin. Like, they say that you can do that, but she literally did that. So she drew you sponsor 3, they sponsor 3, and she explained how the marketing plan worked in a very simple but accurate way. And we were very interested. So just to give you a little background, Joe was an oral surgeon. We were both really interested in nutrition from a long time before medical school and his schooling. And we had been looking for a business. We knew that perpetually trading hours for dollars was not a healthy long-term plan. That being on call every third night, him being on call every third night, us being at 2 different hospitals, a 2-year-old at home, no family nearby. I took our daughter to the ER with me at 3 a.m, more times than I care to admit. The nurses there all knew her, know her, raised her, held her while examined some sick person and admitted them, because we were on call at 2 different hospitals, and it was insane. And we both loved what we did, and I still love what I do, and I know Joe did too. But it wasn't what we wanted to do 60 hours a week for the next 40 years. And it wasn't what we only wanted to do. We wanted to do that and other things. We were both self-employed, so we both had private practices with staff and overhead, which means that you can't take time off. Even though you're making good money, you can't leave, because the overhead and payroll, you get 3 days off before it starts to become in the red. So were making good money, but we had no freedom. We had no time to ourselves. And we just knew it wasn't healthy and sustainable. We wanted to travel. We wanted to do things. We wanted to, do other things besides patient care. So the long and the short of it was that Joe went to a conference before we were even signed up. Because again, France was so smart enough to tell him, there's a conference in California. If you want to check this out, we weren't there yet, right? But you want to check this out. And she was right. For people who are serious about starting a business, they want to check it out. So Joe went and met Jay Martin and Ron Watkins, a senior vice president, and other people. And then he heard the speakers. There were medical speakers. There was Dr. Sears, Dr. Bill Sears was a speaker. Dr. Help me out, Beth. I'm blocking.
Dr. Rick Du Bois.
Thank you. My dear mentor, heart sad, Rick Du Bois, thank you, was also a speaker. And my late husband, Joe, was a very highly trained, he'd done cleft palate repairs, and he had a degree in teaching anesthesiology. He had a degree in, all sorts of advanced training. He was not a man that would use a lot of explicatives like I do. Like, to me, everything's great and amazing. Joe would be, that's good. That's very good. That would be his equivalent of, oh my God, right? And he came back from that conference, oh my God, who are you? Where'd my husband go? Like, who is this person? You are so excited. He was amazed by the quality of the lectures of these doctors, and he was not easily impressed. And he was very reassured by meeting corporate people and seeing their integrity, their heart, that this was not about money. I mean, there was money, don't get me wrong, but this was not about money. This was about being of service. This was about doing something important for the planet, for the people, for the health, something that we could get behind. And so that's how we got started. He came back and he was excited, and I was like, okay, I guess this is good, because I trusted him, and I was right. So Cynthia helped us. We got started. We had, and this is going to I'm going to end with this and transfer it over to you, Beth, in just a second. But this is going to parlay into the training that I'm going to do at 9 o'clock. So if you're a professional or interested in talking to medical professionals about this business, the first thing we did, because Cynthia Gonfers told us to, was we listened to her. We recognized we didn't know what we were doing, that we were great doctors, but had no idea about this business. So we would just listen and do what we were told. And we were coachable and trainable, and we carved out time. We gave up date night. He gave up golf. I gave up horseback riding. It was very deliberate. We had to give something up to do this new thing, but we still had our practices. We still had a toddler at home. It wasn't full time. We carved out a part-time period, every day to do this. And so what Cynthia told us to do was to have 2 networking professional meetings, to invite people to a networking dinner for professionals. Didn't mean just medical. We had our accountant and our lawyer and our plumber and anybody that we knew, and we invited them to a luncheon and a dinner, and Cynthia came and presented for us. And that's how we got started. And I still have people on my team that were part of those 2 initial meetings. And then as time went on, I got a lot of patients involved. It took a while. I had to understand that this was ethically a responsibility for me to share this. There was research, there was data. I couldn't not tell patients, because it was ethically an obligation to share this information of what this could do. So little by little, I start sharing with patients, but there's this line for business and patients, which I was not willing, and I don't encourage anyone to be willing to cross. So I only got customers in my office. I never talked about the business opportunity to a patient. But one day, this new patient comes into my office named Beth Meyer, and she tells me, I eat so many vegetables, this idea is ridiculous. And she did. I mean, she ate more, still does, but she was the only person I'd ever known in all my years of practice that really ate, would order a crate of organic cucumbers for her and her daughter. would order a crate of red peppers for her and her daughter, right? So she was right, but she was sick. Sorry, Beth, but she was not feeling well. I mean, just put it that way. And so I convinced her, even though she thought it wasn't organic, I explained to her that it was better than organic. It's clean and tested. And I finally got her interested to starting the product. And she says to me, is there a business here? And I'm like, oh, shoot, what do I do now? Yes, there's a business, but I don't do it. You have to talk to my husband. And if you don't have a husband or a spouse, you talk to your upline. So you send your patients, no matter whether you're a chiropractor, a physical therapist, a massage therapist, whatever, your professional relationship with somebody. You don't want to mix your drinks. You don't want to jeopardize the professional relationship with another professional relationship with which may or may not work out. So I had the luxury of telling Beth to talk to my husband, Joe, about the business, and she did. And Joe and her worked together for quite a while, right before his death, unfortunately, which was sudden and unexpected and an arrhythmia, unpredictable. So Beth was just barely starting, but had coached, right, a lot with Joe before he passed, and kind of got your attention, got your basic training, got your feet wet, but you weren't there yet. So I will pass it over to you to pick up the story.
So I'll pick up right there because I had a really interesting experience the other day. I went to see an old friend from right around the time that I was not feeling well and had gone to see Tamara and, well, Dr. Sachs. I had gone to see Dr. Sachs. Today she's Tamara, but then she was Dr. Sachs. And when I joined the business, we had 14 studies. And everything she said is completely accurate. I thought it was absurd, but the thing that clicked for me, in truth, I was a competitive gymnast, and the two things that clicked for me really fast were I actually really never ate much fruit. And so I saw this as a way to get nutrition without calories. I thought that was brilliant. And I knew that my daughter and I, although we were getting quality and quantity, we were not getting variety. So I loved that part of it. That made a lot of sense to me. And my brother was leaving for Iraq. My mom was about to have dental implants, and my dad is a dentist. So all of those things to me made sense for me to have access to get it for my family. And so I now see that there's research. I take this research, and I used to sit outside. At the time, my daughter was 4 when I started. So I've been with the company 18 years. My daughter was 4, and I wanted to read the research, but I don't have a science background. I don't have a medical degree, and I don't know how to read. I don't know how to read research, but I was going to read the research. And if you know me, that's my personality. So I have no idea what I'm reading. And I would sit outside my daughter's school. She was there for 3 hours, 4 days a week. And I actually, the other day when I was going to see this old friend, I had to pull over to send a text message, and I pulled over into that parking lot, and it just kind of took me back. And this was just a few days ago. So this is very timely for me. And I actually pulled over and I stared at that little sunny spot I used to sit in. And back then we had 14 studies. Today we have over 40. But anyway, I would call Joe every 15, 18, 20 minutes and say, what's a p-value? What does this mean? What does that mean? And you know, he was so kind. He didn't have it in him to say, like, you don't need to know p-values. You know, broccoli is good for you. But I needed to know. So I just kept reading, and I'd call him every 5 seconds. And, you know, the thing that although Joe and I only worked together for 6 months when I really got serious about the business, we did events together. We talked multiple times a day. I was the least coachable human. So having been a gymnast, kind of interesting that I was not willing to listen or learn. I thought I knew it all because I knew about nutrition, or at least I thought. I had a very successful mortgage company. I really didn't think I needed to know anything about business, and certainly didn't need to learn, you know, how to take care of customers. My attitude at the time was less than desirable. Let's just say that. And Joe said to me at one point, you know, he said, you know, there's a system here. And I said, fine, I'll follow your system. I'll give you 60 days. If it doesn't work, I'm going back to my way. And my mom was actually here and she said, I've never heard you talk like that. And I said, well, I just really want to be successful more than I want to be right. And that was so I had those 6 months of Joe setting a very solid foundation. And I use a lot of the things he taught me then now. And that's how closely I listened and how closely we worked together. And the reason I chose this business and the reason I chose to get serious with this business is I started to hate the mortgage industry. It was really interfering with being a mom. It was interfering with being the kind of mom that I was committed to being. And I was somewhat newly divorced, sole source of income, always have been. Decided to homeschool my daughter. I was coaching her gymnastics. So I needed more flexibility. I also needed income. I had created a lifestyle for us that I did not want to sacrifice. So although I saw moms in this business and specifically moms, because that's what I identified with. And I knew there were men and I knew there were non-moms in this business, but that's what I was looking at. And I saw that they had a lot of freedom and options is what they had, just choice and options. And that's what I wanted because I wanted to be able to raise my daughter the way I wanted to raise her. And I've never looked back, and this business has far surpassed any expectation I ever could have had. I was self-employed too, just like Tamara. And so knowing that I could earn full benefits and take that bill away was super important for me. That was almost $2,000 a month I was paying for health benefits. So to have that was incredible. To know that I'd have partial college tuition reimbursement and just all of it. And to know that it was all about impact. And so I was also at an interesting time in my life where it wasn't just about money. I mean, the mortgage business was great for the time that it was great. And it afforded me a lot of things, at a time in my life where that was what was important, but I was ready for impact. I was ready to make a difference. And I knew that this was a big thing for me. And when I really sat down and thought about, all right, am I ready to do this? Because Tamara said to me, you're 2 presentations on the same day. That was how we were going to kick this thing off. And that, as a very shy introvert, truly made my skin crawl. I'm being as honest as I can be. The thought of having people in my house and having like a presentation with, I can't even tell you, like sweaty palms, like it was just so not in my nature. But I knew one thing. I knew that if I changed careers, it was going to be for something that would never go out of style, something I could do forever and ever and ever. And as long as I had the ability to communicate, which would be for the rest of ever in some way, shape, or form, I could do this until the day I was done working, and I would never have to change careers again because I knew fruits and vegetables would never go out of style. That I knew for certain. And this business has far surpassed anything that I could ever have imagined. And I was not the most coachable really on any level. I was not easy in the beginning. After after I decided I would listen, then came, come to events. And I was like, events? What do I need events for? I know what this stuff is. You told me, I got it. Wow. Then the first real event I went to after saying I would never go was a Juice Plus conference like the one we have coming up next week. So if you've never been to conference, please buy your ticket and come next week. And I used to say to Tamara, I'm not going to a rah-rah festival. That's what I would say. And I finally decided that I would take my 8-year-old and we would go because I too did not have anywhere to leave her. And so anywhere I was going to go, my little one was coming with me. And so we went to that first conference. And interestingly enough, not only was I kind of mesmerized, blown away, speechless, I could use a whole lot of words, but my first speakers were Dr. Mitra Ray, Jeff Olson, who is a Olympic gold medalist, and having been an elite athlete, that was important to me. My daughter was a gymnast. So even at 8, she kind of caught this big vision, and we had been listening to calls. And so when we got to conference, my daughter had this nice long list of names of people she had heard announce themselves on calls that were like celebrities to her. And I see a lot of faces on here I know, so I'll share this just because it was kind of cute. So if any of you have children, really involve them in what you're doing, involve them in all of it. So every Monday night, she would hear the name Jeffer Birdie, and she thought his name was Jeffer, Jeffer, Birdie. So she was like, Mom, do you think we'll meet Jeffer? I'm like, who? Are we going to meet Jeffer? And so we had to go down the whole list. And she told me, well, can we meet Edie Howland from Blue Hill, Maine? Can we meet? She knew where everybody was from because that's how people would announce themselves. So that was my first conference experience. It was fun for her. It was fun for me. The caliber and quality of, well, I can't hear you, Tamara.
Just like, how did I not know that story? It is too cute. How did I've known Sydney her whole life. How did I not know that story? That's hysterical.
Oh, get a whole list. Do you think we'll see Chris and Dr. David Droves from Parkland, Florida? It was just too cute because she would go through each person. Dwayne McCarthy from Lafayette Hill, Pennsylvania, like the things this little girl remembered. And I didn't even realize that this is what she was doing as we're sitting on the airplane. She's writing a list of all the celebrities she wants to meet. And so, and I got to hear researchers from all over the world. I mean, there's speakers that my daughter, she's 22, she talks about them to this day.
Excuse me 1 second, Beth, but this is the same daughter, so you all know, that would correct me after a talk when I made a mistake, which I did, and she was right. But she was so bright and had paid such close attention to my talks that when I screw it up, she's like, Tamara?
There was one event actually we used to do these regular events at a local library, and Tamara was talking one time about vegetables and she mentioned Brussels sprouts. And at the end of the event, my daughter walked up to her and said, there aren't Brussels sprouts in Juice Plus. I think she was probably 10 at the time. And so we've had a lot of fun. There have been a lot of really fun stories. We've had a lot of fun experiences. And, the business has become a lifestyle. It's part of who we are. It's part of what we do. I mean, I will tell you where we are today, what my why was back then and why I said yes, and being a homeschool mom of a little girl and having her put stickers on brochures and all those kinds, different things, or, Tamara, Sydney and I driving to Boston, round trip, coming back at, midnight. And there are lots of just fun, different things that we did. But I look today at having a 22-year-old who's in the business. She's a senior sales coordinator, almost a QNMD. She's in Fiji right now as we speak because of her Juice Plus business and mine. She's, just enjoying life. It's very much a part of who she is, very involved with Tower Gardens. It's just part of who she is. There's no other way to explain it. And it has shaped her. So as a mom, yes, the nutrition's extremely important. As a matter of fact, she just FaceTimed me before we got on, and she said, she's at this resort, and she said, all these people have a stomach bug, so I'm taking as much Juice Plus as I can. And that's just how she thinks. It's part of how she grew up. It's part of her development, entrepreneurship, part of who she is. She's been entrepreneurial since she's a little girl, and she's grown up in this community. And this is part of her extended family in so many ways. And so I can't say enough good about the business, about the impact, about the community, about my health getting better. Although I ate healthy, I had some serious gaps, and thankfully Dr. Sachs cared enough to share it. And I know that that's a slippery slope and maybe feels uncomfortable, and she can speak more to that, but I will always be forever grateful that she did, because I don't know what our lives would have been like had I stayed in the mortgage business, or had I not had the options that I have because of this business and the ability that it's given me. And I'll share one last story, because it's one that, I just recently told, and people said they never heard it and it was impactful. And so when my daughter was competing, and she was a competitive gymnast, we travel all over, and the only activity we had in the summer was gymnastics and our pool. That was it, because we would leave here at 7 a.m. We'd train for 6 hours, drive home, and then there'd be like an hour to jump in the pool, cool off. And that was our summer. And so our pool pump broke. And I have a large in-ground gunite pool, not a little kiddie pool in the backyard. And so my budget was very tight at the time. I had closed one business, started this business. It was, I was building the business and I was doing okay, but not couldn't my budget really couldn't handle unexpected things. And so the pool guy came and he said, you need a new pool pump. You need a new part for your pool pump and it's $500. And I thought, oh my gosh, like, how am I going to do that? And from the time it took me to walk from outside to inside, I thought, wait, we have a bonus program. If I can fast track one person to sales coordinator, I'll be able to pay for my pool pump. Came in, looked at who I had in my business, and I thought, if we can help enough people, they'll get healthy. We'll both make money. I'll have my pool pump. And by the end of the week, I took care of that, had that done, and pool pump fixed. So, the business allows you the latitude to whatever grit you have in you, your work ethic, that's unique to you. And this business allows you to do whatever you want, big or small, a lot or a little, and it can change and it can allow for life to happen, which is a gift. I mean, I will tell you that there was a time period in a very short time span, in a 4-year time span, my daughter and I had 7 surgeries combined, and my paycheck continued to go up. So there's value in this business far beyond sort of the surface, like fruits and veggies. We get that. Making an income, we get that. But there's the emotional revenue, there's the impact, there's the being able to say yes and being able to say no. Yes to what you want to, no to what you don't. And I hope that you all have the courage to share what you have here. And if it's your first time hearing this, maybe the business isn't for you. Maybe you know someone that it is, but I will tell you, it changed my life. And I wasn't maybe the person that you'd think to share it with, because I was really eating extremely well. I was earning really good money. I had my own business. I was a newly divorced single mom. I forgot the 25 rescued animals, just figured I'd add that on there. I was homeschooling my daughter and coaching her gymnastics, which was 40 hours a week between driving and coaching. So my plate was full. It's not like there was room for another pea on it, but I found a way to make room for something that was important. And Tamara knew all of that. Like, she knew that I didn't really need the money. I didn't really have the time. I mean, all of those things were true, yet it transformed our lives, and I will be forever grateful. So thank you. So share with those people that you care about.
That was awesome. I loved it tonight. That was so great, you guys. We will not be here next week because we're all going to be in Atlanta, and you should be there too. But we'll be back the following week. We do invite you all to stay on the line. I'm going to end the first event, but I would love if everybody would stay on the line and listen to Dr. Sachs talk about how to approach doctors. All right, let me